What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's Jeff Guy here, and in today's video, we're doing a Week 10 first look for Draftkings NFL DFS. And if you're wondering, yes, I'm wearing a Colts jersey, and yes, it's a Jeff Saturday jersey. I have a jersey for the Colts head coach, and one, because I'm a fan of him, and two, I'm a big fan of the Raiders this week in DFS tournaments and on the sportsbook. I think he's a rookie coach. It's going to be a rough game for him. We're going to focus on them, but let's take a look at some of the other high-priced options on the sportsbook right now. We have a 10-game slate on DFS this week. Let's take a look at some of the higher totaled games, the ones that are going to have the most ownership and the most fantasy upside, and see which ones we actually want to play. The number one is obviously Jaguars Chiefs, total at 51. Chiefs favored by 9.5. Mahomes stacks are so nice this week. We're going to play a lot of him. We're also going to play a lot of Tua stacks. We've been playing him. We're going to play him this week, and we're going to keep playing him for the rest of the year because he's the easiest stack in DFS this year. You just play him with Tua or you play Tua with Hill and Waddle, and you just print money. It's been great so far. We're going to keep doing it. Total 48.5 in that game. It's a great one. Lions, Bears. The Lions can't stop anybody. The Bears can't be stopped. 48.5 seems like a smash spot for them. We're going to play a lot of the Bears this week. Raiders, 6.5 points against the Jeff Saturday led Colts. Total 42.5. Not great, but Raiders are a great contrarian play this week. Cowboys against the Packers, I really like as 5-point favorites on the road. Total 43, not amazing, but that kind of ends it in terms of games we really want to talk about. Let's go back to the DFS side and build a cash lineup. Cash lineups on Draftkings are meant to win double ups, 50-50s, and head-to-heads. So if you're in those formats where you just kind of need to finish above one person or above like half of the field, cash lineups are the way to go. How do you actually do that? The way to win cash games is to play as many players who project for high ownership, high floor and high ceiling combinations of points, and guys that are really good points per dollar plays. What do I mean by that? Let's take a look at Patrick Mahomes, who's one of the highest upside guys on the slate. You don't need anyone to tell you that Patrick Mahomes is good in fantasy, right? But let's try to explain why he's a good play. At 7.9x, let's round up to 8. Say he's an 8K player. A good score in fantasy is 3 times their salary. So if he's priced at $8,000 on DraftKings, you need him to score 24 points to be a good play in NFL DFS. And if you take a look at Patrick Mahomes' game logs, 38 points, 30 points, 24 points, 30 points, 24 points. Since week 3, he's smashed that 24 number and has a very realistic expectation of getting there in a really high totaled game at home. So Patrick Mahomes is a great play this week, but cash is about points per dollar, and it's going to naturally gear towards some of the lower guys that we're going to talk about right now. The 3 quarterbacks I'm considering for cash this week are Tua Tagovailoa, Dak Prescott, and Justin Fields, all of whom are significantly cheaper than Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and have a realistic expectation of being like the top quarterback on any given slate. The guy we're going to choose is Justin Fields because he has so much rushing upside, and it's just safer from a fantasy perspective to go for running quarterbacks than for passing quarterbacks because rushing is just worth more. 10 rushing yards for 1 point versus 20 passing yards for 1 point is something we really want to target, and then rushing touchdowns are worth 6, while passing touchdowns are only worth 4. So Justin Fields is going to be our quarterback for this week because he's probably going over that 3x total at 6.5x salary against Detroit. Come on, that's too easy. Running back this week is going to be very condensed in terms of ownership. There's not a lot of good plays, so people are going to play some of the higher priced guys just for safety. And the 2 best plays at running back this week are Saquon Barkley at home against the lowly Texans at 8,600, which is expensive but not otherworldly. He's going to get 25 to 30 touches in this game. They're going to be leading. He's probably scoring a touchdown. He is the safest play at running back this week, as well as Derrick Henry, who is the other really expensive running back. We're going to play them both in cash this week just because we need, that upside and safety of these guys scoring points. They're running through the league like nobody else. So we're going to grab both of them. And we're also going to play another running back from the same game as Saquon Barkley and Dameon Pierce. He is another guy who projects really well from a points per dollar perspective, and his usage is really good. So the other thing we look for when projecting out cash plays is how many times are you going to touch the ball, because touches directly lead to fantasy points. And Dameon Pierce looks like a great play this week. So we are playing 2 running backs from the same game, but I feel good about where we're at, given that we're going to be eating some ownership in cash, which is always good, and we're playing guys with really high touch volume expectations. The other 2 running backs I'd consider this week are Josh Jacobs, who's going to get a lot of touches against the Jeff Saturday Colts. We're going to monitor him. We might pay down at one of these guys to get to Jacobs if a lot of people are going to be playing him. And the other one is Travis Etienne, who has come up very drastically in price. You know, he was $5K in week 6. Here in week 10, he's $7,100. He is smashing recently. They are projected to lose this game by a lot. So Etienne might get a couple more passes as checkdowns. He might not be as good of a play given that he's so expensive, but people are going to gravitate him because you're going to ride the hot hand. It's what we do. We're going to have to save some money at receiver, and we're actually going to play a lot of people from this Houston Giants game. But Wan'Dale Robinson looks to just be too cheap this week at $4,700, given that he got 8 targets the last normal games the Giants had. The Seattle game was kind of weird. They recovered a fumble and scored quickly with Saquon, and the offense wasn't really clicking in the weather. So I'm going to give him a pass with those 3 targets and expect him to get 5 to 9, somewhere in that range. And Wan'Dale Robinson has the talent, upside, and ability to get open where he should be a good play. Right now we have 2 Giants in cash, which I don't feel great about. But what we can do is move Saquon down to Josh Jacobs or Etienne and pay up at this spot to get off the Giants if we really need to. Next guy we're going to play is George Pickens, not Kenny Pickett, who, while he only got 3 targets and didn't catch a ball last game against Philadelphia, it's another one I'm willing to write off. Most specifically because they just traded Chase Claypool, and he's had a week through his bye to get used to being the new wide receiver 2 behind Deontay Johnson. Before the trade of Chase Claypool, he was getting between 6 and 8 targets already. And, at 5K, I would take someone getting 6 to 8 targets. I'm projecting him to get around 9 or 10 this week against a team that's going to shadow Deontay Johnson more. And we're going to play George Pickens in cash. I think he's a great points per dollar play, a lot of targets coming his way, and there's upside because they're just going to be passing the whole time because they're going to be down against New Orleans. And then our last receiver is going to be Mecole Hardman, and he is not someone we've ever really thought about in cash, but his role has really expanded on this Chiefs team as they've looked to him in the absence of Tyreek Hill to be their gadget guy and their deep threat guy. He's obviously not Tyreek Hill, but had 9 targets last game, a little bit inflated with how many times they passed the ball, but he's scored 3 straight weeks, had 3 touchdowns in week 7, is just kind of really involved in what Kansas City's going on. They have added, Kadarius Toney, so he might not get as many touches, as many snaps, but right now he's projecting as a really good play in a really high total game against Jacksonville. We're going to play him there. And then we're also going to play Dalton Schultz, who has seen his targets increase every single week he's been active. So we're going to monitor him as the week goes on. 3,800 is just too cheap for his upside in this offense. If we're talking about points per dollar, right, we're going to round him up to 4, 3x that. The expectation is he gets 12 points. And in his first game back, and it was kind of just a low scoring effort against Detroit, he put up 10. And then against Chicago, he put up 13.4, which is above that 3x. I think he has significant upside on that 12 points in a game they should win against Green Bay. So I'm going to play Dalton Schultz. And as you can see, we do not have much money left, leaving us with these bottom 3 defenses. For now, I'm going to pencil in the Minnesota Vikings defense, given that they've gotten a lot of takeaways and that Josh Allen is currently injured. If Josh Allen is healthy and rearing to go, I'm probably going to pivot off of this selection up to maybe the Steelers against Andy Dalton, the Cardinals against Stafford's offensive line, somewhere in here. But for right now, I think that's a safe play. And this is our first look at cash. Let's go take a look at some tournaments. Tournaments this week are going to center around a couple games. Obviously, this first one is Minnesota-Buffalo. Buffalo stacks are going to be super viable if Josh Allen is in. If Josh Allen is not in, do not play Buffalo stacks. But for the purpose of demonstration, we're going to grab Josh Allen, Diggs, and Davis. Davis has kind of been down recently, but anytime he goes off, you're going to win your slate, you're going to win your tournament, you're going to win your contest if you have him in there. So you definitely want to consider stacking him with Josh Allen, as well as Dawson Knox, who is viable, the starting tight end, the only guy that really gets targets when he's healthy. So if you're going to play the Bills side of this game, play that stack. two of the three receivers, of course. And if you're going to play the Kirk Cousins or Minnesota side against Buffalo, you can do any of these things. You can play Thielen, even though he's having a down year, and then go with TJ Hawkinson. All those guys are viable. Mix and match them with Buffalo to make a game stack. That's super easy there. Next game is obviously Detroit-Chicago. We talked a lot about Justin Fields already, but just for the purpose of demonstration, you can do a double stack here, or you can add Cole Kmet. All viable options there. I wouldn't play any running backs with Justin Fields, given that he is the upside guy. And probably if Justin Fields goes off from a rushing perspective, David Montgomery or Khalil Herbert probably aren't. And then on the Detroit side of this game, you can go with Jared Goff if you want to throw up in your mouth. You can go with Amon-Ra if you want to kind of throw up in your mouth. Reynolds or Raymond, either one. And then you can go with one of the cheap tight ends, Brock Wright or James Mitchell. I think Mitchell caught the touchdowns. We're going to go with him there. And then that leaves you a lot of money to play around with something else in if you want to. In the highest total game on the slate, we have Mahomes and Trevor Lawrence. Obviously, Mahomes is viable. You pair him with 1. You pair him with 2, 3, 4, 5. Any of these guys, go for it. Do what you want. It's Patrick Mahomes. You pair him with anyone, there's upside on that spot. On the Jag side, you could make a Trevor Lawrence stack with Kirk, Zay Jones, Marvin Jones, and Evan Ingram. All those guys are viable. This is much more contrarian and much less expensive and prohibitive than Mahomes stack. So if you want to get this way and pay up at other options, that's totally doable. Other guy to talk about here is, of course, Travis Etienne, one of the best running backs right now in the NFL. Probably one of the higher owned guys. Is the highest price he's ever been at. So we want to be careful there. Obviously, we're playing Tua stacks. We're probably not going to play Jacoby Brissett stacks away in Miami, even though it's a revenge game for him. We're going to grab Tua, obviously. We're pairing him with 2 of his wide receivers, the only 2 wide receivers that matter. If you want to get to Gesicki, I guess you do it. I'm not gonna. And then we're going to bring it back with anyone on the Cleveland side that actually makes sense. Nick Chubb's a beast. Kareem Hunt is too cheap for his involvement. Amari Cooper gets a lot of targets. Donovan Peoples-Jones has to take the top off the defense ability. Figure it out, play one of those guys. And the last game that's worth talking about on this slate from a fantasy and high upside tournament perspective is Dallas Green Bay. If you want to go with Dak Prescott stacks, I think they're super viable this week. CeeDee Lamb is in play. Michael Gallup is in play. Probably not any of the other receivers, but if you wanted to go to Noah Brown, if he's in, fine by me. And then, of course, Dalton Schultz is going to dominate targets at tight end this week, so play him. If you wanted to, you could play Pollard or Zeke. Probably wouldn't do it in a Dak stack, but if you wanted to, I mean, sure, it's your funeral. And then the Green Bay side, you could do an Aaron Rodgers stack, which is just absolutely vomit. But at some point, he needs to come back and be Aaron Rodgers, and I'm confident it's going to happen at some point. But they have stunk. He has still yet to put up above 20 points. This Dallas defense is really good. I don't know if it's going to happen. But Aaron Jones might miss this game, might force them into a passing environment. So if you want to play Lazard, his top corner, Sammy Watkins, did I say corner? His top receiver, Sammy Watkins, I guess. Samuel Torre has kind of been involved. I mean, he's gotten 4 targets the past few weeks. If you want to go to him, he's cheap. You could do it. And then, of course, the number one option in this offense is Bobby Tunyon. So you could play all those guys or play the more contrarian approach and go with the Dak side with an A.J. Dillon bring back, maybe a double bring back with Robert Tunyon. I don't know. You just do what you want with this game. It's kind of gross, but I don't like many of the other options in this slate. This has been our first look into Week 10 on DraftKings. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know which plays you like this week, which plays you don't like, guys you think I should have talked about, guys you think I should not have talked about, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Let's go!